Hi folks, welcome back for the second video in our exciting sanding series. Thanks for joining us. So I'm getting ready to sand the guitar body, and like I mentioned in our last video, it's in really good shape. So what we're going to do is we're going to sand a little bit with the 220 grit sandpaper. Now, you can certainly use clamps to hold down your guitar body. Just open the jaws like this, clamp them down, and then squeeze to close. As you're finishing your body, you may want to put some felt pads in here so it doesn't leave marks on your body as you get it sanded to perfection. I'm using some toys that I have. They're called bench cookies. They're by Rockler. These are certainly optional, but they do a nice job of keeping your guitar body firmly in place without damaging it. And so that's what they look like. And so they'll hold that down with friction. So that's what I'm going to use today. So as I mentioned earlier, I'm going to start sanding with 220. Now, I'm sure many of you have used these before. Your students may not have. I'm going to sand a little bit of a piece here today. And once I turn this off, I'm going to wait until the sander's done vibrating to turn it off before I put it on our tables. I'm sure shop teachers out there, you've got marks all over your shop tables where your students, turn it off, put it down, and they've left marks. So we're not going to do that. One thing that we definitely are going to do, and this is something we're going to have to teach our students as well, is we're going to sand in the direction of the grain. So these are made out of mahogany, and the grain is going along this way. If I sand across the grain, all that I'm going to do is just introduce scratches, and that's what I'm trying to get out. So I'm going to actually make the surface much rougher, and that's not the point of sanding, of course. So we're going to go with the grain. That does get a little bit difficult when we get to the edges, and so we just always have to remember what the direction of the grain is pointing. But again, these bodies are really nice. They don't need a whole lot of sanding. All right, so let's give it a try. All right, so I just sanded a little spot, turn it off, wait for my sander to finish vibrating. I'm gonna set it down. Now, if I keep sanding, especially if you live in an area with high heat and humidity, it's gonna get that sawdust really sticky. So one technique is to use a soft bristled paintbrush if you have, wipe off the excess sawdust, and then in between, whenever you change grits, it's always a good idea to use a tack cloth in between. So that's also an option. If you don't have this, paper towel, old rag, that will do a good job. And we'll talk about how to handle this when you're up to the 400 grit if you choose to go that route. We'll talk about that technique here in a bit.